Welcome to the Stoic Responder Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Healy. As a special agent who spent more than 15 years conducting large-scale fraud, money laundering, and public corruption investigations, Stoic philosophy provided a mindset edge that became the foundation of my professional success. My mission today is to share those same ancient mindset lessons with you so that you can turn obstacles into opportunities and adversity into advantage. Time to muster up. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Stoic Responder Podcast. This is episode 78, Hold Your Own Court. Before we get started, a couple quick announcements. Number one, I want you to go check out the overwatchcollective.com. That is my favorite 501c3 because they support the law enforcement community by supporting mental health initiatives for our first responders, veterans, and their families. That includes the funding of absolutely free and anonymous therapy sessions for our first responders. Nothing could be more important for the men and women who are holding the line for us. So if you want to support them, I would highly encourage you to do so. You can go over there. You can pick up some of their sweet gear that they've got. They have some awesome t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, all of that stuff. And if you do pick up a coffee mug, be sure to fill it up with some Blue Badge Coffee Company coffee. Blue Badge Coffee Company is proud to provide customers the absolute best, highest quality premium coffee that their money can buy. But they also take a portion of each and every sale and donate it to law enforcement agencies around our great nation to assist them in funding and or maintaining peer support and wellness programs for their officers. These programs are crucial for the physical and mental well-being of hardworking officers in the law enforcement agencies across our country. Please check them out and get yourself some Blue Badge coffee over at bluebadgecoffee.com. Guys, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I do not take a dime for advertisements. I like to support the sort of agencies, the sort of operations, the sort of 501c3s, the sort of businesses that are providing to our law enforcement community because we need it now more than ever. And those are two of the great organizations that are doing so. Super proud to support them and to be associated with them. I hope that you will give them your support as well. As I said, the episode title here is Hold Your Own Court. We're going to jump right into it in 1 second. Let me start off by saying it is now Tuesday, October 8th. As I'm recording this, it's Monday, October 7th. So I don't know when you're listening to this, but this is posting on Tuesday, October 8th. We're expecting at some point Tuesday, possibly into Wednesday, landfall from Hurricane Milton that is hitting the west coast of Florida. I have a lot of friends over there. I know I have a lot of listeners in Florida. If you're listening to this and you are on the west coast of Florida and you haven't already done so, I would highly encourage you to get to higher ground, to get to inland, somewhere in the peninsula inland. This is not one to mess around with. And as a longtime resident of the Gulf Coast who's lived through quite a few hurricanes in my almost 20 years in Texas on the Gulf Coast, and as a property owner in Florida as well, who keeps an eye on these sort of things. This one has me more nervous than most. So I hope you will heed any and all warnings coming from the state, coming from county officials, if you are a listener to this podcast, because I want to make sure that you are safe and well taken care of. And folks, if you are following along with what's going on with Hurricane Helene, if you have been among the many people who have reached out to me because you know that my past career involved a lot of work with FEMA and investigating disasters, disaster benefit fraud in particular, following hurricanes. I've had a lot of outreach. I've had a lot of DMs. I've had a lot of text messages. I've had people reaching out and talking to me about what they see and what they're seeing on, whether it's on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but I guess there's a lot of updates on TikTok, on Twitter, and other places about the response, about what's going on with FEMA, the lack of coordination between private entities that are providing relief and have been providing relief since the day or 2 days after the storm versus the federal government, which has had a slower response time versus the state agencies, the sheriff's departments, things like that. There's a lot of information out there in kind of the information ecosystem. There's a lot of people who are frustrated and upset about the way that money is distributed by the federal government to fund, overseas operations, to fund different sort of priorities within the United States, and that there are people who are suffering right here in Appalachia that don't appear to be getting what they need from our federal government. I addressed all of that. What I know from my time working these sorts of post-disaster operations, I addressed all of that in a podcast that posts on Monday. And I just tried to lay it out for you, what I know about FEMA, how they're supposed to operate, what their job is versus what the first responders' job is, what some of the challenges are they might be facing that has slowed their response time with regards to Hurricane Helene, why that might be, and then just kind of my no BS assessment of the situation. So I try to keep that stuff out of the Stoic Responder podcast. So I did a special out of role episode. If you're interested in that stuff, you can go check it out. It's on the podcast. It's on the same spot you're getting this podcast, whether that's at Substack, whether that's at YouTube, whether that is right here in Apple, Spotify, whatever the case may be. So if you're interested in my take on that, the take of somebody who did criminal investigations following federal declared disasters, who was in and out of disaster recovery centers on a regular basis, who worked hand in hand with FEMA officials following Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Ike, Hurricane Katrina, the Bastrop Complex fires, and a dozen other lesser storms, and things like freezes and tropical storms and wildfires and COVID, pandemic, you name it. I've worked with FEMA across a number of different disasters. I know how they're supposed to operate. I know what they do. I know what it looks like when they do their job right. I know what it looks like when they do their job wrong. So if you're interested in learning more about my take on that, go check out that podcast as well. All right, getting into the meat of the show here. Let me start you out with a quote. How sweet is the sleep that follows this self-examination? Seneca. All right, so this one we kind of talk about a little bit on the podcast. So I'm going to kind of get into the root of this because I've kind of sniffed around this before. Seneca, of course, was one of the great Stoics, existed around the same time as Jesus. In fact, some historical record shows that they were born possibly the same year. So they kind of consider it contemporary, his lifetime contemporary with what you read if you're a Christian, if you read the Bible, right? Seneca existed around that same time in that first century. And, he was kind of considered the most, or he is considered by historians and by philosophers as maybe the most verbose of the Stoics. We have the most record of his life. We have more record of his life than we do of even Marcus Aurelius, who, of course, drafted Meditations, but we know that, it was X number of journals, but a lot of those journals are missing. A lot of those journals didn't, survive into the modern era and have been lost to time. Seneca wrote a lot. He wrote a lot, and a lot of his letters were preserved. A lot of his treatises were preserved. A lot of his essays were preserved. And he, of course, was famously the advisor to the Emperor Nero. Nero eventually tires of the old Stoics' advice and, orders him to commit suicide. And, ultimately that's what Seneca does at the end of his life. But Seneca was a wordsmith. He wrote a lot. He was a playwright. He was a powerful advisor, a philosopher. And so we hear a lot from Seneca, and we hear a lot about how he operated. And it gives us a really great window into how the Stoics themselves operated in that time period because of how much he wrote down, how much he discussed his philosophy and talked about his philosophy. And so what's interesting to me about Seneca, one of the things that's very interesting among many, is that Seneca adopted this daily form of self-examination. That's what he's referring to in this quote. He's essentially referring to the fact that it is difficult to engage in an accurate self-assessment of our own worth unless we track what entrepreneurs call KPIs, our key performance indicators, our KPIs every single day. And Seneca, 2,000 years ago, was doing exactly that. He was tracking his KPIs on a daily basis. And this is what a lot of them did. Epictetus did the same thing. They adopted this form of daily self-examination that actually didn't originate as a Stoic practice, but originated with Pythagoras. Of course, we all know Pythagoras because of that wonderful theorem that we all learned in high school algebra class. But Pythagoras also wrote something called the Golden Verses. And he suggested in the Golden Verses that every evening people should ask ourselves 3 specific questions. And these were the 3 questions that Seneca asked himself, and that Epictetus and that other Stoics asked themselves. Those 3 questions are this: what did you do amiss? What did you do? And what duty was left undone? So in other words, you're taking an accurate self-assessment of yourself every night. And what Seneca is saying is, how sweet is the sleep that follows this accurate self-examination? When I present myself as I would to a jury or to a judge and present myself for guilt or innocence, what did I do amiss? What did I do? In other words, what did I do? What was my day? And what was left undone? What didn't I finish? So what did I do wrong? How did I spend my time? And what didn't I do right? If you can answer those three questions, however you want to phrase them, you're setting yourself up for a better tomorrow. And if you give yourself that self-examination every single night, if you defend yourself as you would in court and noted that that practice would help you, become better the next day, how much better would your sleep be, right? You wouldn't toss and turn at night. You would say, what did I do wrong today? Okay, I'm going to do better tomorrow. What did I do today? Okay, that's good, but what did I leave undone? Okay, that's bad. I need to do better tomorrow to make my day, the things that I do, more productive so I leave less undone. I need to work better tomorrow to do fewer things amiss so that I can focus on what I do control and focus on the things that I should be doing. Those are the three questions. And I think it's wonderful. And I think, again, it goes back to Pythagoras. It predates the Stoics by centuries. But again, Seneca likened this daily self-examination to defending himself in court. And I think that's a great way to look at it. If you were before a judge and a jury today, at the end of today, and you were defending yourself and your actions and what you did and how you conducted yourself, how would you fare? That's the question he's asking himself, right? So to become that which we truly wish to become, we have to be sincere about who we are, and we have to spend time daily measuring our progress. We have to take note of those KPIs, those key performance indicators. What did I do wrong? What did I do? What didn't I do? Right? Those key performance indicators are going to help us become what we wish to become, a more virtuous person, a person who is more attuned to that which they control, who is driving forward an agenda that's leading them to live a virtuous life. We have to be sincere, first and foremost, about who we are, because what we measure, we can manage. And when we are not measuring things, we're not managing. It's just pure dumb luck that we get better or get closer to our goals, right? So if we practice this self-examination every night, it can do a couple of things. It can heighten our awareness throughout the day. The next day, we're going to be aware because we know we have to pass that test at night. We know we have to present ourselves for this self-examination at night. So we're going to be more heightened and aware throughout the day to ensure that we are focused on those things that are within our control, that we are moving the ball forward the way that we need to. If you're thinking about how I spent my time and you're thinking about how you're going to have to present that to yourself, you're going to give yourself that review. We did quarterly case reviews in my agency. When I knew I had a quarterly case review coming up, I was really focused on moving the ball forward and making sure that I walked into that quarterly case review with my boss with some measurable steps that I had taken on a case. So if I'm staring at my phone and I'm scrolling away and I'm just looking at Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and whatever else and just wasting my time and just staring at this thing, I know at the end of the day that I'm going to have to give myself a grade. I'm going to have to tell myself, what did I do amiss? What did I do? What was left undone? Maybe I'll put that phone down. Maybe I won't spend 30 minutes scrolling. Maybe I won't spend 45 or an hour. Maybe I won't get lost in that trap that the algorithm gets you into, right? Maybe I'll be more focused. And that's the idea here. Give yourself that self-examination every single day. So let me leave you with the journal prompt and get you on out of here. Ask yourself those three questions. That's our journal prompt. Get out your Big Chief notebook, write this down. What did I do amiss? Write that out however you want, right? You don't have to give it that sort of same fancy way of saying it. What did I do wrong? What do I wish I hadn't done? However you want to phrase it. What did I do amiss? Number two, what did I do? How did I spend my time? In other words, what did I accomplish? What did I get done today? What things did I do from the moment I woke up? How did I spend my most precious resource, which is, of course, my time? From the moment I woke up until now, what did I do? And number three, what was left undone? And if you answer those three questions, you give yourself that honest assessment, I guarantee you, tomorrow, you're going to do better. And the day after that, you're going to do better. And the day after that, the day after that. It's good enough for Pythagoras. It's good enough for Seneca. It's good enough for Epictetus. It was good enough for Marcus Aurelius. It's good enough for you. Folks, thanks for listening. Got 3 more episodes coming to you this week. If you'd like to support this podcast and help us out with what we're doing here, there's a couple ways you can do it. Number one, you can pick up a copy of my book, In Valor 365, Stoic Meditations for First Responders. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, anywhere you get your books. You can get it on Kindle or Nook for instant download, or you can order the paperback edition and have it delivered to you via, what's it called? Amazon Prime. I think there's going to be some deals this week on Amazon Prime, so be looking for that as well. You might be able to get it at a discounted rate on the 8th and the 9th of October because Prime is having a big sale. This book is going to give you some quotes, some contextualization that are directly relatable to your job, and daily journal prompts and action items to help you integrate the lessons. Number 2, You can subscribe to the Stoic Responder over on Substack for free. On that page, you're going to get these podcasts delivered directly into your email, as well as my weekly newsletters with Stoic leadership and personal development tips. If you feel so inclined, you can feel free to sign up for a paid subscription over there. It's not going to get you anything different than the free subscription. It's just going to support the podcast. And I certainly appreciate everyone who decides to sign up for a paid subscription. And finally, the easiest thing that you can do, and it'll cost you absolutely nothing but a little bit of your time, is to follow this podcast wherever you're getting your podcasts, like, share, and subscribe so that others can learn about what we're doing here and can get some of this Stoic wisdom into their day as well. Thanks so much, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Until next time, you are out of roll. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, like, rate, and share this podcast so that we can spread the benefits of Stoicism to other first responders. It will only take you a few moments, but it can help us tremendously. Until next time, out of roll.